printed boards, a battery from which flows the electric current that brings it all to life. Imagine the extraordinary complexity that must go into producing any one of those parts. The sleek plastic casing alone is the product of an extraordinary complex process of extracting oil, then distilling it, before transporting it across distant oceans. At each stage, thousands of people have contributed to the web of processes that produce the smartphone in your pocket. The story of human progress is about how we moved from a world of simple self-sufficiency, where we could not create much more than sharpened stones, to today's world of complex interdependence, providing us with all that we have around us. How did we get from one to the other? It's just a case of being cleverer, you might think. We have more sophisticated technology than our primitive ancestors because we have bigger brains. It's easy to assume that because we live in a world of greater technological sophistication, we must therefore be brainier than those who lived before us. Actually, if you compare the brain size of modern humans to archaic Homo sapiens or Neanderthals, it's clear that if anything, they, not us, had bigger individual brains, although we should not assume this meant they were cleverer in a cognitive sense. Since we went from having hand axes to having smartphones, it's not our individual brains that have got better in any sense, but what the author Matt Ridley calls our collective brain. What do I mean by a collective brain? You don't need to know much to make a hand axe. Even the uninitiated could work out for themselves how to hammer out something similar, rock against rock, in a few hours. But to produce something as sophisticated as a smartphone, you need to work with others. There is no one person who knows enough to make a smartphone from scratch, not even the late Steve Jobs. When the Apple team designed the first smartphone, they incorporated into their design chips that others had engineered and screen technology that third parties had perfected. Each of the individual parts that make up a smartphone is itself a product of countless actions undertaken by tens of thousands of individuals, among whom none contributes more than a tiny input of the overall knowledge needed. Apple might manage the supply chains that assembles the various component parts, but beyond that, there is no central direction. The people who mined the cobalt knew nothing of those who designed the software, who were oblivious of the company that created the chips. Yet together, that vast sum of know-how produces a collective intelligence capable of producing something of far greater sophistication than that which, as individuals, we would ever be capable of. How did this come about? Somewhere in Africa, more than 100,000 years ago, Matt Ridley suggests, humankind began to add to its habits generation by generation. We learned that instead of self-sufficiency, we could draw on the knowledge and efforts of others. Humans, uniquely, started to specialize in producing what they produced well, and then to exchange what it was they produced for what others had specialized in producing. This change was barely perceptible at first. There are only a few clues in the archaeological record, seashells or ochre exchanged over long distances that hint at a nascent exchange. Yet from such humble beginnings, an ever more sophisticated process of specialization and exchange has, over time and often very slowly, lifted our species from a subsistence existence to a world of cities and shopping centers. Working together through exchange is what sets our species apart. It is what enables us today